Welcome to the 18 Yards podcast. Today we're going to talk about Tottenham Hotspur. What is going on at the club? I mean, the club looks like it's in complete shambles. There's a lot of disconnect between the owners and the fans. Their star player Harry Kane apparently wants to leave the club, and obviously they're in search of a new manager. So let's dive into it, Rahan. What do you think is wrong at the club at the moment?
Well, I think it was either Sunday evening or Monday evening that the news broke about Kane asking to leave. I think it was Sunday evening, if I'm not wrong. Um, I thought it was slightly strange. Uh, you know, last week of the season, etc. And Sky Sports had been running this sort of news for a while, while Mourinho was there. They had calmed down once Mourinho got sacked, but they had been running it for a while. Initially, I thought, must be just one of those news items, but then, more reliable journalists, etc., started picking up on it. So the week didn't start off well. And from Harry Kane asking to leave, we went to yesterday, where I think, you know, the award for worst Tottenham performance of the season is not easily given, because there have been many this year. But I think in terms of footballing and in terms of the consequences in the season, maybe, you could say the Europa League loss to Zagreb was worse. But in terms of symbolism and significance to us as supporters, I felt this was not. I mean, I have no words. Since yesterday, I've been feeling deflated. It's just such a bad vibe around the club. The entire way the game played out, after 8 minutes, we just collapsed. Then post game, how the players didn't come out, how the fans were asked to leave. Even before the game, what Levy said in his pre-match. He writes a letter at the end of every season in the pre-match program at the last home game. So it wasn't great yesterday. And obviously now in this video, we'll get into the specifics of Kane leaving and the ownership and possibly the new manager. But yeah, so not been a good week to be a Tottenham fan. I just want the season to end now. We've gone from in December, hopefully winning the title, to in February, possibly, keeping a place in the top four, to in April, looking at Europa League. And now, it's the last day of the season on Sunday, and all I can hope for is that we finish above Arsenal. Because I don't really have interest in the European Conference League. We play our youngsters, etc. That's fine. But it's just gone from bad. It's gone from good season.
So do you think, sacking Mourinho, about a month ago, do you think that's related to the poor performances your club's facing right now? Because Ryan Mason has come in, surely he's got some of the vibe back, but I don't see the team playing as well as they did under Mourinho. So do you think, the decline of Tottenham from fighting for Europa League place under Mourinho to now hoping that they qualify the Conference League, it's because of his sacking?
The decline of Tottenham has been coming since Mane kicked the ball onto Sissoko's arm in the Champions League final. It's been coming since that game. Since that game finished. Actually, it's not even been coming since that game. You could say that was the peak of the Pochettino era, but the decline was there from before. When you're the only club in modern history to not spend a penny in the summer transfer window and not refresh the squad, this is what happens. You asked about Mourinho sacking, but for a couple of minutes, I'm going to take it back all the way to Pochettino's sacking. It comes down to the fact that Daniel Levy does not, I don't know what word to use, but he does not take the harder decision, right? Sacking Pochettino and getting in Mourinho, who he's always wanted to manage Tottenham ever since 2004, when Mourinho first came to Chelsea. Uh, it was like, I mean, it was his own appointment. He was living in dreamland. I like Mourinho, but Mourinho and Tottenham were not a good fit. It didn't work out for either of them, and it would have worked out if Mourinho was given the tools to make it work out. You saw that in the first half of the season when the guy was implementing his plan properly and the players were buying into his plan properly. It was working. It wasn't like Everton was up there in the first 4 weeks of the season, but we were first in December. I mean, December's almost halfway.
Right.
So yeah, so I think sacking Pochettino was a mistake, because he didn't want to do the hard work of replacing the squad, getting rid of some of the players, bringing in new players. So he sacked Pochettino. Fast forward 18 months, you're in the exact same situation with Mourinho, except you're not at the beginning of the season anymore. You're at the end of the season. You've got a cup final. You're 3 to 5 points off the top four. You've got the only guy ever to beat Pep Guardiola in a cup final as your manager. You're facing Pep Guardiola in 6 days in a cup final. You've got Harry Kane likes the manager, right? And your best chance of keeping Harry Kane, unfortunately, is to stick with Mourinho for the next 7 games. See where he gets you. Fine. If we end up outside the Europa League, Champions League places, then Harry Kane may still leave. But you've got a better shot of keeping Harry Kane if you keep Mourinho, at least till the end of the season. You've got a better shot of winning the Carabao Cup if you keep Mourinho. Now, coming to Ryan Mason, I mean, he's 29 years old, right? It was, again, like Mourinho was a vanity appointment. Ryan Mason was a vanity appointment from Daniel Levy. The guy does not have any managerial experience, top flight managerial experience. I don't even think he has under 23 or under 18 managerial experience. He's head of youth development, right? I think, or he was at Tottenham. Um, so, I mean, yes, obviously, you saw against Leeds, you saw against Man City, you saw for large parts of yesterday, we were outcoached. We have better players than Leeds. We have better players than Villa, but we were outcoached. And his substitutions have been off. His selections have been, questionable. I don't know why Harry Winks was on the field yesterday. But I'm not gonna sit here and slag off Ryan Mason and say he's a terrible manager. It's his fault. It's his fault. It's his fault. I mean, when you bring in a guy who doesn't have the experience to try and get you Champions League football, it's not going to work. You'll be able to beat teams like Southampton, who are not the Southampton of the first half of the season. I mean, they're in terrible form. You'll be able to beat Sheffield United, who are already relegated. You'll be able to beat a lackluster Wolves side. But in the long run, you're not going to be able to win enough games to get where you want to be. And I didn't understand sacking Mourinho at that time with 7 games left, because it does no good. It makes no difference to sack him then or to sack him now. Like, there's no difference.
Do you think when Levy appointed Ryan Mason instead of and he sacked Mourinho, do you think it was partly because there were a lot of talks of fans saying Mourinho's not the Tottenham way, he's he plays very ugly football, anti-football. Levy might have thought that if I get Mason, that side of the drama would be sorted, because the season was already out of the hands, right? So do you think partly that was the reason of him?
But my shock at Mourinho sacking at that time was simply that the season wasn't out of hand. We had drawn to Newcastle and drawn to Everton, but the season was not out of hand. We were still in the short of top 4. We were still in a Carabao Cup final, right? Fine, I would have understood if after a week we had lost the Carabao Cup final and we would have sacked him. Exactly, the season was gone. So I didn't understand. If you say the season was gone, then why you're sacking him? Just let him take it till the end of the season, right? That's point A. Point B is, if Levy is going to listen to the fans about, if you use Levy was listening to the fans, I don't agree with that, simply because he doesn't listen to the fans about anything else. I mean, he's charged £60, right? That's 6,000 rupees to go and watch one game after almost a year and a half of fans not being able to go. I mean, I go to games a lot. I was going before the pandemic a lot, and I paid that much, I think, for Tottenham versus Bayern. This is not Tottenham versus Bayern. This is Tottenham Aston Villa.
It
Right?
was as
I think
embarrassing though.
it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, and obviously we'll touch upon the complete, lack of touch between the ownership and basically the club and the fans in a bit after we speak about Harry Kane and quickly on the manager. But that's what it is. They're completely out of touch.
Right. So, talking about Ryan Mason, talking about Mourinho, obviously, Ryan Mason is just there for to see off the season. Obviously, he's not going to continue with Tottenham post this season. So, I've read a few names on Twitter and some publications. But according to you, who do you think Spurs should appoint, and what are the names that come to your mind? When talking about Spurs' new manager.
I think the first thing I have to get out there is, and I said this when Pochettino was sacked. I said this when Mourinho was sacked, which obviously a month back. Uh, it's simply the fact that no matter who you appoint, you can appoint Pep Guardiola, you can appoint. I mean, if Mourinho hadn't been appointed, you would have said you can appoint Mourinho. But whoever it is that you appoint, they will not be able to work out with this squad. This squad has let Pochettino down. It has let Mourinho down, and to a certain extent, it has also let Mason down. Right. So a huge overhaul is needed. I mean, I was talking to someone today, and I was saying that at least 7 to 8 players realistically need to leave. So that's one bit. So it's very clear that Levy needs to back the manager and needs to clear out some of the deadwood according to the new manager's requirements. Whoever he doesn't see in the plans need to go. No matter at this point, no matter what price they go at. If Dele Alli was worth 80 million, I don't think he should leave. But as an example, if Dele Alli was worth 80 million 4 years back, 3 years back, and he's worth 25 now, he should go at 25. Because if we keep on keeping these players and think that oh yeah, their value will increase later. I mean, and if it doesn't, then you're again stuck in the cycle. You're finishing ninth, and you're regressing every year. But at least the optimistic in me is saying that they're looking for a manager, and all the reports linking them with the different managers, because there are lots, are looking at managers who play attractive attacking football. And ironically, what started this mess was sacking Pochettino, and now they're looking for someone like Pochettino. They're basically, his words exactly were, if you close your eyes and you listen to what Levy said about the profile of manager they're looking for Pochettino. Obviously, Pochettino is now winning trophies at PSG, so, and we're not going to get him. So I think the Athletic today, in terms of who it's going to be, the Athletic today came out with a list of 4, which was Graham Potter, Roberto Martinez, Eric Ten Hag, and Ralph Rangnick. Obviously, this is the only list I've seen in the last week from any outlet. I think one thing that's very interesting is that this is a very, very tight-lipped process. And usually in football these days, nothing is so tight-lipped. Right. You get someone or the other on Twitter, someone in the know in the club, it leaks somehow. And in this case, there's no in the know, there's no leak, nothing has happened. Right. And apparently, like Fabrizio Romano also said yesterday, Alistair Gold, who's one of the most reputed Spurs journalists, has said today, is that they've got a list and they're talking to people, but nobody knows what that list is or who those people are. Now, I think, and I hope that it's an appointment that the fans like, and B, plays good football and the players like. And B, I do think that this next period of the next year is Levy's last shot. Right? The fans are so disillusioned with the club and especially with him, that I think if it carries on like this for a year, you'll get to a point where fans will actually stop going. And that's unfair to the fans, because we love going to watch games. It's unfair to the players because they should be supported by the fans.
Right.
But in terms of a boycott, they'll stop buying jerseys, they'll stop going to games, etc. There'll be more protests like there were last week. So I think this managerial appointment is obviously laying the base for the next couple of years, right? And Levy has to get this right, and he has to get a manager who plays the right kind of football and who can, develop whoever stays from this squad and possibly even convince Harry Kane to stay, because Harry Kane, it's not got to a stage where he's said that I'm going to have a conversation with the club. And I understand that that's probably as direct as he wants to be at the moment. But obviously, the new manager will have conversations with Kane, because no matter what Kane says, he's still, he's on a 6-year contract. He's only finished half of it. So unless someone comes and says 175, 150, 175, 200 million, he can't leave, right? So he's not going to go for an 80, 100. I think 150 plus is the number. So obviously, I think those are the three elements: fans, Harry Kane, and football style. And obviously, those three things are linked. So let's see. I think there'll be more clarity on who the manager is in the next week, 10 days, probably before the end of the month, and if not, definitely before the Euros. Of the four names I mentioned from the Athletic, sorry, go on.
No, I was about to ask you, like, about of the 4 names, which manager would you prefer at your club?
So who would I prefer? I would actually take two out of the four names. I would try and get Ralph Rangnick as the director of football. And I would get, if Rangnick is the director of football, I would get probably someone like Graham Potter as manager. Even Eric Ten Hag works. Even Roberto Martinez, for that matter, works if Rangnick is director of football, because then there's a clear philosophy. There's a guy in charge of transfers. There's a guy, and you just have to look at what he's done with the Red Bull clubs to see that he's fantastic. I personally would want Ragnick in some role at the club, whether it's manager or director of football. And I've said this to you for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
If not, I don't mind Eric Ten Hag, but he's just signed an extension, so I don't know how that's going to work. Roberto Martinez, I don't want him simply for the reason that he will I expect Belgium to get to the semi-finals, to the quarterfinals at least. So he's not going to come till late July, and the season starts mid-August. I think that's too late. Then if the manager himself doesn't have a preseason, then you're in a bit of a situation. Now, the most interesting name here, in my opinion, is Graham Potter. Fantastic football. He's not a glamour appointment though. So in terms of Kane, I don't know how that works. How Kane will look at a manager who has less credibility than him in the game.
Yeah.
So I would want Ralph Rangnick. I don't mind Graham Potter because I like the way his teams play. And in terms of a long-term appointment, Graham Potter would be the right guy. But I think if I could shoot in the dark here, I can see Levy going with Ralph Rangnick as a 2 to 3 year appointment, managerial appointment. Just simply hoping that Pochettino, because I don't think many PSG managers last past the 2-3 year mark.
Right.
So I see Levy hoping that PSG sack Pochettino in 3 years and he gets a good manager for the next 2 or 3 years and then gets Pochettino back. So let's see. It's very, very murky. We don't know. There's no one clear candidate or two clear candidates. The names we've spoken about are some of the names in the mix, but let's see how it goes over the next month or so.
Now let's take the focus away from the managers and put it on the biggest story that broke out this week. Harry Kane wanting to leave Tottenham. I think that's massive for everyone involved in football. If you're a Tottenham supporter, if you're neutral, it's just a massive news. So do you think he's going to leave your club after so many years? He's been the main man for about 6-7 years now. Do you think he's leaving?
I think again, it's too early to say whether I think he's leaving or not. I think if there was more clarity on the situation at Spurs, you'd have a more firm yes or no answer. I think no matter what he's saying in public, the desire is there to leave. But I don't think the desire is there so much as people are putting it out to be. Obviously, it's a big transfer story. Everyone loves the transfer saga,
Yeah.
like we saw Messi last summer. Part of me is saying this is going to end up like Messi last summer, where simply Man City couldn't come forward and give Barcelona that much money, right? And I don't know if Man City are going to come and make a 150 plus offer, and I don't see Spurs settling for a player swap or offer less than 150. So at this moment, I would say no. Let's see what happens with the manager. That the manager appointment may swing it more to a yes or further no. As time goes by, let's see what happens at the Euros. I do think that there are two time frames to look at in terms of this transfer. There's pre 29th of May. That's when Kane joins up with the English team, and there's post probably July 11th, I would say, because if England get to the final or whenever England are out of the Euros. I think those are the two timeframes you have to look at, because he's England captain and his main focus this summer will be the Euros. So he will either try and get all of this sorted before the Euros start, or then look to finish it once the Euros are over. And one more thing about the timing is that the interview with Gary Neville that's doing the rounds today was taken on the 11th of May. We're already on the 20th, right? So it's already been 9 days, and the story broke after the 11th. So my feeling is that they've already had the meeting with Daniel Levy. Daniel Levy has not given them an answer that they like, right? He's probably said, no, I'm not going to sell you
But do you think
at
that's
whatever price.
do you think that's unfair? For, I mean, he's
Well,
contributed so much for the club. I think if he wants to leave, they should, right?
I think at 150 plus, sure. At 150 plus, yes. At 100, no. Because if you sell him at 100, it's unfair to Tottenham. Because
Hundreds of it.
that's
Yes, yeah.
35 that's 35 goal contributions, right? And I'm not even looking at it in terms of talisman, fan status, nothing. I'm looking at it in terms of goal contributions. And naturally, when I look at it like that, I'm looking at replacements, right? You sell Harry Kane for 100 million, you lose 35 goal slash G slash A. I'm looking at, you need a marquee player to keep the fans happy. You look at Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish costs 80 million, and his is a 15 million. His is about a 15 goal contribution season, right? So it doesn't work for 100 million for me. 150 plus is where the conversation begins. Now, where Levy starts that conversation and ends that conversation um, is a different conversation altogether. But I think uh, at this moment, I don't think he leaves. But obviously that can change. My personal opinion on this is that if we get the right amount of money, then Harry Kane should leave. Because I mean, if we don't have that 150 million extra to invest into the squad this summer, then he's not going to get players to play alongside him that will make this squad any better. He'll again have to carry us for the next season, next 2 seasons, and then it's just a circle round and round. He'll want to leave next season. So, I mean, if he was to leave, I spoke to you on the phone about this the day the news came out, but there are 3 ways this goes in my opinion. One is that he leaves and we get the money invested into the squad and start fresh, which is the right time to do it. We start fresh now. New manager, basically a new squad, because I think 8 players need to go regardless of what happens. And then you have a kitty of about almost 300 million with the Kane money. 2 is that Levy somehow says, okay, he tells Kane, okay, to keep you, I'm going to spend some money. I'm going to give you a squad that you can play with. Therefore, you sign someone like Dybala, who's got 1 year left on his contract. He's a big name. You sign someone like Grealish, which is much more expensive than Dybala, but you sign him to give Kane that support. You sign a centre back, right? That's 2. And 3 is that, 3 is that Kane leaves, we get about 150 million and we spend it like we spent Bale's money, and then it's not a very nice situation. Yeah, so that's how I see it playing out. it's too early for me to say whether I think he should leave. Obviously, I don't want him to go. But if we're getting the right amount of money, then I think uh, my heart says no, but my head says yes.
I mean, I can see him play for City next season, and City is walking the
That's
league,
just a
man.
cheat code. That's a cheat code.
That's on it. Oh my God!
I
Imagine.
think the last thing I can say about the Kane transfer is simply that if he does leave, I'd be worried because even if we have 300 million, we don't have the best track record in terms of spending money. So I think if Kane does leave, then a director of football like Rangnick is very, very important, right? Because that's someone who knows where talent is and who knows where to spend the money.
Right. And talking about uh, how, just quickly, just to finish, talking about how the ownership is, been acting out lately, them being a major part as to why the club is in such shambles. So, how much would you blame the ownership in whatever's happening around the club? Obviously the players are a part of it, the manager was a part of it, but how?
80%. 80%. Because I can't say 100 because I'm going to divide 10 and 10 between managers and players. 80%. Because, like I explained, um, there is no way. I mean, he's got the last three big decisions wrong. A. B, the way they're treating the fans is completely terrible. Like, I mean, yesterday they prioritized the advertisement in the stadium over the fans. So they made them sit up in the heavens because so that they could see the ads. Right. So that's my take is that they're completely disconnected. And like I said in the beginning of the video, it's just not a good time uh, for Spurs to be a Spurs fan.
Right. So Daniel Levy, if you're watching this video, you know what's wrong with your club, and now you know how to fix that. So let's see where the club goes from here. Thank you for watching this video, guys. Do stay tuned because we have some interesting and insane content coming your way, especially for the heroes. See you.